is your third book, it's certainly in this current series. So Access Your Super Consciousness. When's it actually coming out?
It came out here, at least in the States, it came out August 8th.
Fabulous. So what about in Europe?
I got a feeling it takes about 30 days, so maybe September 8th it should be available. Before you enjoy the video, if you want to go deeper with me, make sure you check out my meditation masterclass. It is unlike anything. It's pinned in the comments below.
How does this one vary from the previous two?
Yeah, so I mean, if we took the teachings of supercharged self-healing and the teachings of change your mind, and then really upped it, not another level, 20 levels. So essentially what we're doing is we went from understanding the human condition and then accessing the I am, or the self, for liberation, healing, and deprogramming of the conditioned mind of all misperceptions, misunderstandings, and misidentifications. Now, what we've done with Access Super Consciousness is that we've developed meditations, 24 of them through 24 different teachings. We've developed a robust, repeatable, and super expedient way to go even beyond your own higher mind, but literally to go to the higher mind of the higher self. And so this is where all wisdom resides, all knowingness resides, all where the superhuman resides. And these are the authentic teachings of self-mastery. And so this takes the previous work and literally takes it to many, many levels past the way that we were working before.
So when you've been working on these books, you're clearly guided. Can you tell us a little bit about your thinking? I mean, were the three books in R.J. Spina's mind the way that you were going to do it, or have they just come to you as a result of your experience and ongoing experience?
Yeah, it's more, Tim, it's more, we'll use the word organic or kind of flow. So the way in which the books are being released to the public is not the order in which I wrote them.
Right.
So they're coming out perfectly, I promise. But the truth of the matter is, I wrote Supercharged Self-Healing first. The book I wrote immediately after that is literally book 4, which doesn't come out for another year and a half. Then I wrote book 2 in terms of what's coming out, and then I wrote this book. So they're wildly out of order in terms of the creation of them, but they're being released, I actually feel, in perfect order.
Yeah, well, I've dipped into this one, and I have to say that it grabbed me. I mean, it grabbed me, right? I mean, the previous one, I think it was your second book, in release order. I thought, right, I've got to prepare for speaking to RJ. I've got to read this book, and I found it interesting. It was great, and I did some of the exercises. This one I've just dipped into, and it's like, oh, hang on, I've really got to get hold of this. This is fantastic. Do you feel excited by what you're actually putting out now to the world in these books?
Very, very. I feel that what is shared is exactly, precisely what is required for humanity to work with itself optimally and take its next stage in the flowering of consciousness. So I'm very, very excited about this book. This is, and watch, when my 4th book comes out, I'll say that's my favorite. But truth be told, this is my favorite book. This is absolutely my favorite book. I love Supercharged. I love Change Your Mind. They're very powerful. They're very effective, and they've changed, I don't know how many people's lives. This book is special. It's absolutely special, and I'm super excited that now pretty much everyone can access all these things just by getting the book or the Audible.
It's very, very readable. It's very accessible, and you don't go into any of the I suppose the academia side of trying to analyze things, which really, quite frankly, turns so many people completely cold. One of the things you have done in this, dipping into one of the early chapters, is you've shared some of your personal experience before you had your hospitalization, that you kind of launched yourself onto the internet with your hospitalization story and that story of self-healing. But what you do here is you talk about Rich, your friend, your medium, and some of the experiences that you had at that time. So could you just share a little bit about that for our viewers?
Yeah, the as you know, Tim, as you just alluded to, the first chapter is really completely and utterly autobiographical. It's written as if it's part of an autobiography, and there will be an autobiography before I leave my body. But I felt that sharing those, it was 4 or 5 experiences, I don't remember, but I felt that sharing these momentous moments in my life that utterly changed me. I mean, I've never been the same from those events that are captured in the first chapter. My hope, Tim, is, and my desire is, that because they so changed me, that by the reader, by reading it or listening to it, it will change them. And that's really the whole idea behind it. And I also felt they were important to relay, so people get a really deeply personal sort of side of me, of my life, because maybe people just, they just see me doing interviews or things like that. I think it opens up a door to the personhood of RJ, and it also illustrates that by immersing myself in that world with my friend Rich, uh, it allowed me to live within a reality that is so far beyond what we would accept as possible, or hopefully it'll give other people permission to operate way outside of the lines, because I was literally living a reality that even when my parents would ask me about what we're doing and I would explain just a little bit, I mean, they would just look at me like they couldn't even respond, because it was so outside of anything that they had any sort of frame of reference. But it was important. Each one of those moments built upon the next moment, and they were all data points of my own self-realization, and each one built upon the next one. And as I said, my desire is that because they were so life-changing for me, I hope by connecting with the energy of my personal story that it will become life-changing for the reader.
I was surprised. That chapter opens with you in your early 20s. We'll come on to obviously some of the more, let's say, the more positive aspects, because you know where I'm about to go with this. I was surprised that chapter begins in your early 20s, and you were seriously contemplating suicide at that point, because you'd lost so many people that were close to you. You had grown up, though, as a child. In the previous interview, I remember you saying that you'd always confused your parents by the things that you would say as a child, because you had this knowing about life, and it was not the standard human being sort of perspective. Blunt question: why did the loss of so many people that were close to you as a human being affect you so deeply that you got that close to killing yourself?
I think one of the things, Tim, is that when I was experiencing, from a human perspective, all that loss of really the dearest people, including my dog, which was my best friend, uh, the sense of loss from a human perspective was overwhelming to me. One, because I loved them all so much, and many of them I was there as they were leaving their body, and many of those instances were not, let's say, graceful. And it deeply affected me. And one of the reasons it deeply affected me, Tim, is because I felt I could do something about it, and I couldn't get it out of me. And it tortured me. It drove me almost to the point of me taking my life. I knew that there was something in me that could assist them. I knew it, and I couldn't get it out of me. And it literally it drove me mad. It drove me to complete anguish, despair, rage. And I needed those things to occur. I actually needed those things to occur for me to go within myself, because at the moment I wasn't going within myself enough. And hence my
Mm.
mind, my ego mind, and my emotional body were overwhelmed at the loss of these beings that I love so dearly. So I felt that I could assist. I knew that I could assist, and I couldn't bring it out. And I was having a tough time at home with my dad. It was violent. So you combine the despair, the sense of loss, the sense of the frustration that I couldn't help, and the escalating violence. At the time, it seemed like the only way out was to end the incarnation.
I won't. Yeah, and that's when you met Rich, of course, who fundamentally was a catalyst that helped you back and onwards. And so, therefore, you had this period of your life where you were sharing it in this way that you've just earlier on described as being a very different experience of being a human in the other side of the veil a lot of the time, shall we say. How, were you did you then do you feel as though you then went into your experience of being hospitalized with the sepsis, the paraplegia, and all of that stuff that we've talked about before, and that amazing catalyst that you had then? Do you think that occurred to you because you then weren't taking your next step, and it was like the consciousness saying, come on, next step is needed?
Yeah, I mean, I gave myself, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all give ourselves these challenges, and we don't give ourselves challenges in order to capitulate to them. We give ourselves challenges in order to see ourselves transcending them and overcoming them. That's what challenges are about. Challenges force us, because without them, we'd all sit back on the couch and, whatever, right? So it's the challenges. It's really, let's use an analogy. I like analogies. It's the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. Now, the caterpillar has to destroy itself. The caterpillar has to destroy itself for what's really inside to come out. And all of these data points and losses and challenges and paralysis and this and that, those are all aspects of the false self dying. That's what all of them are. And some of these aspects, Tim, that we're talking about, they can be deep, deep rooted misperceptions and misidentifications, uh, misunderstandings. When you add all those together, the summation is your false character. So each one of these data points was almost like a cleaving away of that aspect of the false character, and then another, and then another, and then another. And they all added up to the ultimate one, so to speak, is literally being as close to death as you can be. You can't feel your body. It doesn't work. You told you have 48 hours to live. So all of that stuff led up to that. And all of them were required. And as I say, healing is, people argue, what is healing? It's the deconstruction of the false self. That's also what liberation and enlightenment is. So they work together in that way. And all of these instances, Tim, were data points that built upon the next one until the caterpillar destroyed itself. And then what emerges is the true self, or the butterfly.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because as you speak, you are using some absolutely brilliant phrases like deconstruction of the false self, and all the misconceptions, misperceptions, and all of that. As you were saying, they're beautiful, fantastic, wonderful, so well communicated. Now, when I read your pages, when I read your words on the book, equally, that's incredibly well written. It's lovely. It's brilliant. It's easy read. It's simple, but very deep with it. And equally, you're also being very RJ in some of the points that you say, like, remember what I've just written here. Classic. It's like, yeah, okay, thanks. Do you find yourself in your different parts of your life deliberately aiming for those different energies, or do you just go with whatever you're doing at that moment in that point of time?
Yeah, it's more the latter. And maybe we could just use an again, as you know, I like analogies. So if we have a backyard, right, and we keep cutting across, grassy backyard, we keep cutting across the backyard in the exact same way. So we wear out that path, right? So pretty soon it's just dirt. right? We've worn it down. And the more we keep doing it, the wider that path becomes, right? So the more that we have practiced and worked on through meditation, through surrender, this full communion with the higher self. And full communion with the higher self is self-realization. That's what enlightenment is. So the more that we do this over and over again, really, Tim, what's happened is that you've just created a pathway that's always there. And it instead of, it used to take me a long time ago, it used to take me 45 minutes, give or take, it used to take me about 40 minutes to kind of reach, even though it's right here, but to reach that communion where that vastness of wisdom and past lives and et cetera, et cetera. So it used to take quite a quote unquote effort. You do it enough. So essentially, it's just now part of the waking state without any effort. So it just depends upon what I'm doing. So if I'm teaching a class, course or whatever, it's just there. It's me. It's me, right? So there's just more of me, and it's just easily flows. And I think, just to add to that, Tim, I think I don't think the idea is that the my goal is to keep upping my ability to serve, to keep, if you will, I'm very, I have a huge spiritual ego. At least I'm joked with by other beings that only you would, think you can do more. And right. So part of it is some kind of gigantic spiritual ego that, well, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I can. So, but there is truly from my heart that I want to serve at levels that seem absolutely impossible. And because that truly is my desire, I really feel that I'm given access to whatever is required in the moment, because the core motivation is how much love and wisdom can I pour out. And so I feel like I'm given free reign to access whatever is required, because that's really what's driving my actions.
Yeah, because bottom line, what you're saying there is that actually the ideal, the goal, the aim is that limitless compassion, isn't it? That's kind of what we're talking about here, which is, as a spiritual being, or the highest we can achieve, incarnate in the human being. So, sorry, there's no question there, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really feel that's why I'm able to, I don't know, do what I do, or however we want to say that. I think because that really is my intention. It truly, authentically is my intention. And I think in a way, that pathway that I was talking about, it literally just keeps getting wider and wider and wider. And now it's just a pure connection 24/7.
I think it's really interesting that what you were alluding to was there's sorry, you might remember our sort of conversations. I'm sorry, I get myself wound up in trying to ask a question. The spiritual path is often seen as one where we go, right, okay, we're going to connect to guides. We're going to allow guides to come to us in their full wonderfulness and allow them to be part of us, and we're part of them. But actually, what you described was that plus, let's keep RJ, human being, present and is focused, but with that ability to connect. And that's the integrated whole that is often spoken about, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Part of, from my perspective, and probably yours, based upon what you just said, part of the shortcoming of the way we've conceptualized what it means to work on ourselves spiritually and be spiritual is to not have it apply in this moment to moment, very applicable and real way in our daily life. And for me, I don't even, as you know, I don't even use the word spiritual or spirituality, because I feel it's been hijacked. It's been complete. I talk about metaphysics. I talk about the deeper, one true, concrete reality in which everything is spawned from. And to me, that's metaphysics. It's universal. It's what will eventually, and I'm going to write a book on it, it's what will eventually tie in all the religions, because I'm going to show the common thread, and the common thread is metaphysics. The common thread through all of these religions, which are almost all saying the same thing. So for me, we'll use the word spirituality. For me, spirituality, Tim, and I mean it, it's useless it's useless if you can't use it day to day in your moment to moment life. And that's why the teachings that I'm sharing as RJ, they're so practical. And that's why everything I write is prescriptive. So it's not just me talking about these things. It's like, okay, just do this and you'll have the tangible experience of what I just talked about. It must be useful in talking to our partner. It must be useful in the life that we're creating for ourselves. It must be useful in the business that we want to create. It must be useful moment to moment. Otherwise, what is the point? And so when I think spirituality in general has gotten completely away from them. Spirituality is now about, I can channel this and then I can access the Akashic and I can talk to him. Who cares? Take it from someone who does all that stuff. It has no impact on the quality of my life. The quality of my life is based upon how authentic and present I can be. And that's what I mean about the usefulness of the teachings that are contained within the books.
Brilliant. All religions, you mentioned there, all religions, fantastic. And the essence of all that is emanating from the metaphysics. A thought occurred to me before we connected on Zoom today that actually, because I quite like looking at all of this from the quantum field experience, that old label, that chestnut, but really metaphysics has created for us, or we have created for ourselves as yet another religion, the science around quantum mechanics and quantum theory and all of that, so that we can actually try and understand some of what's behind, eventually, metaphysics. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The only again, from my perspective, the only issue I see is that we are sometimes operating from a baseline of theoretical assumptions. So we're starting. It's like asking for directions to go somewhere and thinking, okay, now I got it. You've already taken 3 wrong turns. So it's like, no, you got to back up. You got to back up and start here. You're already lost, and you think now this is the time to start. So that's what I find when I do, or sometimes people that are into that stuff actually send me emails and stuff. RJ, what do you think about this? And most of my answers is kind of that. It's like back up a little bit and come to here and then start from there. But I do feel you're right. We're trying to get to the one true concrete reality. But the key for me is that if we can drop the theoretical assumptions and go to what is tangibly known and start there, that's when we'll make headway faster and it'll be more impactful.
But I mean, that headway as a species, as a community, a global community that we appear to be part of at the moment, is we're on this verge of kind of really abandoning the perception, I think, see what you think, the perception of objective reality, of objective truth. It's built on the subjective, the value of the individual experience, which is the wave that's rippling out and creating the manifest reality that we determine is appropriate for whichever moment. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's all true. Everyone's perspective is true. It's true for them, right? So what I'm interested in is going to the one true concrete reality that all these different perceptions are then spawned from, if that makes sense, right? So there's subjective truth and there's objective truth. Everyone, I mean, there's 8 billion people on this planet, and everyone thinks what they do is right. And for them, they're right because it's right for them, right? So there are all of these truths. Now these are subjective truths, and dare I say, they're seen through the windshield of some kind of conditioned, programmed, brainwashed MK Ultra mind. So what we want to do is go prior to that and start to touch the true self, the I am, where this is the one true concrete reality that is giving birth to all this. Now, the further we get away from that direct, tangible experience of the I am, the further we get away, the further we're going to get to subjective reality. If that makes sense, we're going to start to delve into an opinion, right? And everyone's entitled to an opinion, and like I said, 8 billion people on this planet, everyone thinks what they do is right. Because for them, they're right. They are right. But if we can learn through these teachings to go further within, and then what's going to happen is we're going to see ourselves in everyone. And once we see ourselves in everyone, what harm can you do to anyone? And for me, that's one of the main goals.
Right. Nicely said. Okay. Okay, great. Now look, you mentioned a magic couple of words earlier on, which was past lives. Right. Now, past lives is one of the things that we kind of get excited about very often. I'll use the S word again in spiritual teachings and spiritual exploration and all of that stuff. Now, you spent a lot of time early on exploring different characters, different individuals, different manifestations of the human beings that would come to you. Some of that was spent with Rich, some of that would have been on your own, doing that, exploring that side of things. What's I think I know where you're going to go with this, which takes us straight back to what you just said. But I was going to ask where you kind of sit. What's your views with past life? What were some of your experiences that you've had with what you believe to be your own personal past life?
Well, there was a couple of things going on there. One, I wanted to hone my skills and abilities. So for me, this is way back. This was 30 years ago now at this point, right? So I wanted to get better at my ability to do these things, to access these things. And one of the first things I started doing was giving past life readings to people once more of these abilities and talents came online. I stopped because I realized they were making more identifications. They were creating more attachments. So I'm like, well, my goal is liberation. And so if I'm telling people about their past lives and they're identifying with that, I'm actually not helping them. So I'm just going to stop. So now the exploration, that when we talk personally about me exploring, one, it was to sharpen my skills, and two, as a kid, I just had this feeling about myself. And I even used to say names over and over again as a mantra. I used to, and I don't remember, believe it or not, I don't remember if I put it in the book. I used to say Francis Bacon over and over and over again. Francis Bacon, Francis Bacon, Francis Bacon. And then I used to say Plato, 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 Plato. And everyone's like, what the hell are you saying that for? I'm like, I don't know. And now I realized I was trying to wake myself up. I was literally, so for me personally, for me to continue my work as best I can, I think I required some kind of confirmation and validation, because I feel very different and my understandings are very different, and I have, strange things I can do. It's like my feeling is that I'm that. So I need to understand. I mean, do I feel this way for a reason? Is it just my imagination? So I wanted confirmation for myself, and that confirmation kind of freed me up, Tim, to continue my work as RJ. So it's really those two things. I always had that feeling. I wanted to confirm or make sure that, no, that's not true. So I wanted that confirmation. And at the same time, I just wanted to keep getting better and better and better so I could serve better and better and better. So that had a lot to do with the exploration of past lives.
Is even though you're helping people go as deep as they can at whatever level they're starting from, do things like past lives, do you see them as just getting in the way? Do you still just kind of put them to one side when people ask you about them?
The only thing I would say is that if our evolution seemingly, if seemingly we're stuck and we need something, it's like training wheels, right? Do we always want to drive around? Well, no. But are they helpful? They sure are. They're absolutely. I had training. I mean, they're helpful, right? Okay. So I think I kind of view it as that way. I've worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and every now and then, if I pick up that some of their sticking point has to do with a past life thing that they have not let go, I will bring it up. I'll say, hey, just so you know, blah, 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 blah. This is where this comes from. And you see the relief and the release. So it can be helpful, but to start to focus, if it becomes the focus, then you're not really being who you are right now. Right. And this is a trap. And Rich and we used to talk about that. I said, we can't focus on your past lives, Rich, and my past lives. What we have to focus on is right now, who we are right now. We can draw upon the freedom of knowing that, yes, this is what we do when we're here. We're able to do these things. We are teachers of humanity, et cetera, et cetera. But if that becomes the focus, you're going to miss everything, the all-encompassing beauty of right now. So it's helpful. They're training wheels. It's maybe the best way to look at it.
That's fine. Training wheels is good. It makes complete sense. Just a quick one. Do you think you'll be back again?
Without question. Yeah, without question. It's so, I mean, I've already deeply experienced from a linear perspective, because it's all happening now, which is, I know the mind's like, what? But it is. So I have deeply explored my next, from a linear perspective, what would be my next incarnation. And yeah, I will be back, and it's, I'll even give some of it away. So it's around 2154. I am at that point, I am around 30 years old, and I'm living in the place that we used to know as Chicago. And I won't go any further.
That's a really interesting point of view from a human perspective, linear perspective. That's really interesting. I've never thought about looking at that. Never thought about that.
Yeah, because Tim, we can't. I mean, just to it has to already be there for us to tap into.
Yes.
So that means it's already occurring. And if we went further, we would actually realize the whole thing has already occurred.
Absolutely. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. Mind blown. But does that not also bring in an aspect? I think it might well be in your book. I haven't gone that far into it, but I saw something about puppeteer. Does that mean, was that referencing to free will or the perception of free will? Because if everything's already happened, where does that put free will?
Oh, I just did a book signing a couple of days ago, and the first question someone asked, like, RJ, I got to talk to you about free will. I said, okay, so this is similar to the answer I gave this gentleman. Okay, so if we really dove deeply, and I have, if we really dove deeply, we would realize that this first moment of creation occurs, and it really has to do with beings becoming aware of themselves, and they begin creating. It's really what that is. Okay. After that moment, everything is already set into motion. There actually is no free will after that. Okay. Because it's now everything is a chain reaction. So it's not really, and I'll add to that. So it's not really free will. Now, from a human perspective, okay, so remember, we're a projection of our higher self, right? Yeah. So we are a piece of our higher self. This is the higher self evolving itself. We're like the drone or the tentacle of the octopus that's doing the learning on the behalf, because the higher self can't come all the way down here. Okay, so if we start to realize that the past, present, and future have all occurred, and what we're doing is moving I'll use a book. Let's go to analogy. It's better, right? Okay. We got a book, right? We open it up, page 77, right? Okay. And I look at the first sentence, right? Okay. In this moment, we don't know anything about the preceding 77 pages, and we don't know anything about the next 100 pages, right? Okay. Now, we only know and can only experience where our attention is right now. It's on the first sentence of page 77. But yet, the book is already written. It's already complete. Now, for us to understand ourselves as the limitless immortal creator, we have to understand all the minutiae, all the tiny bits and pieces of the first part of the book, this part of the book, and the end part of the book. And the only way to do that is to put your attention on every single word of every single sentence. Otherwise, you don't get the full impact of the book. But the book's already written. So we are moving our attention which is energy. We're moving our
Mm-hmm.
attention throughout the whole thing. And the more that we move our attention through this whole thing, the more that we get out of the experience. But make no mistake about it, all of it has already occurred. Humanity is a raging success. The free will experiment is a raging success. We only just have our attention on one sentence in one paragraph on one page of an enormous book that has already been written.
Do you find that people are actually at this time despairing about how the picture that they see of humanity?
Not necessarily the people that go to workshops and take classes and courses. They understand that what they're witnessing is really the thrashings of a dying consciousness. And so we can't move past what we don't understand. And so all this stuff has to come up. All the things that we believed to be real and true are being exposed as just not. And that's really what this is. We can't new beginnings are often disguised as messy endings. Right? So this is what we're seeing. If we're attached or identified to the things here, we're not going anywhere. So all of these things have to come to the surface so we can see them clearly, then we can detach from them, and then we can move on. If people are struggling with what's going on, this is the simplest thing I always say to everybody. If whatever you're partaking in doesn't make you feel freer and lighter, don't touch it. Because the truth doesn't require your participation. Lies do. And the truth will always make you feel freer and lighter. And if you're watching the news or doing this or doing that, and you're making yourself upset, then stop. Then stop. And realize all of these things are occurring because they need to, right? It's a here's the word again, the S word. It's a spiritual detox. So and we know when we do a detox, right? It's a bit messy, right? It's a bit messy. Okay. Well, what do you think we got going on here? It's a bit messy. Let it come up, and then we can move past it. Don't identify with what's going on. This is a needed experience for us to move to the next level of our own consciousness. I hope you enjoyed the video. Now, if you are desirous of more of the real you and less of your conditioned, agitated mind, if you know that you can create a life that you're not leading right now, but you know you can, check out my meditation masterclass. It's pinned in the comments below.